Hi there guys, welcome. Today I've got a couple of projects coming to you. I get these signs at the thrift store all the time. I love them. They're always in different sizes, and because they are usually solid wood, they make a great choice for projects. So I'm just gonna give this one coat of black acrylic paint. After that paint dries, I'm gonna sand this down with some sandpaper. Now, I did not want to cover all that lettering. I want to use it to my advantage just to have some extra texture and interest in the background. I do go over this with a couple of finishes, but I still wanted to possibly be able to see some of that lettering. I just think it looks kind of neat. I'm going to take a little bit of the Warm Buff by Apple Barrel and just give this a dry brush. Now I do end up going over this with white as well. I'm looking to build lots of interest and texture for this piece. Got some white acrylic paint and my putty knife. I'm just going to drag this across to build some layers. I've been using a putty knife a lot lately. I actually really like the unpredictability. It kind of makes things a little bit more fun. And you can't control where the paint's going to go. You just let it do what it's going to do and then work with the result. And so I really like this technique. I've got some more of the acrylic paint and I'm just going to drag it across for a little bit of a dry brush. And a lot of times when I do these projects, I have an initial plan, but I kind of just go for it and see what happens. And it just makes it a little bit more fun sometimes. And so now, okay, I've got this clip art. I printed out from the computer. And I'm going to just brush some of the coffee bean acrylic paint mixed with water over the top for some staining. I still don't have any instant coffee. I would pick it up and use that to stain my paper, but this works just as well. And so I'm going to put some Mod Podge on the back of that, and then I'm going to put it right there onto the front of this piece. Okay, so now I decided to break out my ruler because I felt like this was a little off. I think with all the different paint textures going on, it looks like it's off. It ended up being exactly the same on each side, and so I was pretty pleased with that. Okay, so now I've got a stencil. I just want to use a part of this stencil, so I'm going to be breaking out the painter's tape. And it took a little bit of thought here. I didn't want that stem to go into the ribs and kind of just kind of, model the effect. And so I made sure that I taped off that piece, and so it starts right on the outer edge. So I'm going to tape that down, and then I've got my cosmetic sponge with some more of the coffee bean acrylic paint, and very carefully, I really like stenciling, but boy, I still get so nervous when I stencil. I just feel like I'm going to destroy the entire piece whenever I do stencils. But there's different ways to fix things, whatever. You just make it work. But yeah, as long as you offload enough paint from that sponge, you should be okay. Okay. And so you can see where I didn't want that to be touching the ribs at all. So now I'm using the other side of the stencil. I'm going to do the same thing. Decided to add a little bit of a border with more of the brown acrylic paint. I just kind of wanted to tie it all in. And then, I felt like this first wreath was not enough. So I am going to go in with a second wreath and fill in that middle space. Now I'm adding a little bit more of the white acrylic paint just to tone down that brown frame a little bit. And then what I'm going to do is take my sandpaper again and just kind of lighten up that stenciling. I want it to look aged along with the background. And just a side note, when you see the final result, I did add black over the stenciling just because I felt like the brown blended in a little bit too much with the image, and so I wanted to kind of offset it a little bit. So you'll notice that I did add some black acrylic paint. On to project number 2. I've got this canvas board. It's a 5x7. I went ahead and pre-drilled a couple of holes in the corners so I can use some wire for hanging. I've got a page from a piano book that I, often use in my crafts. And so I opted not to age this paper. It already has enough of a natural tint and it can become kind of brittle over time. And so I didn't want to add any water to it. But what's going on right now with the page is just fine. So I'm just going to use it like this. Let's take a little bit of Mod Podge and get this canvas panel covered. I do like using these canvas panels quite a bit. I do have some projects in the past. There's so much you can do with these. It's just, there's just so much. You can add fabric. I often make like fabric pockets with these. And I don't even know. You could decoupage. Obviously, you can paint on them. You can add all kinds of ephemera or assemblage pieces because it is so sturdy. There's just so many things you could do with them. But today we're just going to add some of this music sheet. I try to get it as straight as possible, very carefully. Okay, I'm taking my file now and sanding this off. Just as a side note, no, I do not use this file. I only use it for my crafts. It's nice and sturdy. I've had it forever and the sandpaper never seems to wear out. So it's really great to have for this type of technique. Okay, so now I've got these images. This was kind of a nice little surprise. This came from a 8x10 frame at the thrift store, and that is just a stock, photo page that they add in with the frames sometimes. And because it's got the sepia tone images on there and they're vintage, I thought, oh, that would be so neat just to use as some of my ephemera. And so I am going to go ahead and cut one of those out and add it to this little frame. And so I'm going to cut this guy out. He's got a cute little outfit on. He's looking kind of campy, kind of cheeky. And I thought it sort of went with the, like a Halloween theme. And so I'm just going to go ahead, get him cut out. And there's just kind of a little peek there of some of the other images that it came with. Nice little surprise. Okay, so let's get the Mod Podge on there. I am going to glue this down onto chipboard. I use this chipboard quite a bit, and it's just great for ephemera, just to keep everything sturdy if you're going to use it in any kind of, like a assemblage piece or vignette or anything like that. So I do go through this chipboard quite a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and get this cut out. Now I'm going to use some gold rub and buff on this frame. I want to add a couple of other metal pieces to this, and so I want everything to match. And this rub and buff is new to me. This is like the second time I've used it. It is impressive in its function. It works really, really great, and the color is just super rich. But it's very caustic. I was using acrylic paint before for any kind of metallics, but I wanted to give this a try because I see so many crafters use it. And man, you got to keep a fan on with this stuff because it's pretty intense. But I'm going to keep using it, and I really like the effect that it gives. So let's see, I put that together there. Now I have some metal pieces I want to also do. I've got these stars. They are, your standard rustic metal star. And so I'm going to put some gold rub and buff on 3 of those. And then what I did was I cut out some really thin like florist wire there that you'll see there on the left. I cut out 3 pieces, 1 for each of the stars. Now I did go over that wire with the gold as well. So here is a nice little embellishment, and I've got a couple of those. The rub and buff works very well on metal. I was very impressed with how good it works. So I'm going to get those covered, and then I also have a button. I've had this metal button for so long, and I don't know if it's like an antique or what. I hope it's not like too much of an antique. It's vintage for sure, but I've just had it hanging around, and I decided to use it today. Okay, so I did cut 3 pieces of wire. Now what I want to do is attach the wire to the star. So I cut out a very, very small piece of canvas. I hot glued the wire down and then used that canvas to ensure that the wire stays. And I did that for all 3 stars. Now I'm just going to measure out some wire for hanging. This is a basic heavy gauge wire that I get at the hardware store. It's pretty generic, and I like to use it for all of my hanging. I just take my needle nose, give that a couple of twists, and then form it to the board so it's flush. Okay, so let's start getting this piece assembled. What I'm doing here is just putting some hot glue down. I'm going to add those stars right in the center, and they go in quite nicely. I was surprised. I thought they were going to be kind of flopping around, and it actually worked out pretty well. So I am going to send some thread through this button. It's something that I always do. I can't let those buttons go without some thread in there. And so I am putting some of the black embroider thread. It's a thicker thread. That way I don't have to go through too many times. I do like to leave a little bit hanging off. And okay, so there's a couple of spots where I can put this hot glue on these metal pieces. Excuse me. And so I very, very carefully add on a couple of dots very lightly so it doesn't show through. And then I kind of eyeball those. Did a pretty good job there. And so then we're going to add that button right into the middle as well. I added some E6000 to the corners and hot glue just slightly around the edge, but mostly in the center. That's going to help keep those stars down. So now I've got a couple of pieces of, well, it's 2 pieces of black lace and then some rickrack black, just to kind of give it a little bit of zazzle, you know, just like for the fall or holiday season. And I'm going to tie that in a very simple knot. I do end up pulling it off to the side. I thought if I left it straight across, you know, it just wasn't quite what I was looking for with the direction the stars were going. So I do end up pulling that off to the side and then hot gluing it so it doesn't twist around on me. How much is that kitty in the window? I do hope that Kitties for sale. How much is the kitty in the window? Oh boy. Okay, I had to leave that in there, guys. I was having a good day. I was having fun crafting, and my kitties were out and about in the catio. I couldn't help myself. Okay, so now I'm taking some black ink, and I'm going around the edges. You know, I always love to create a frame around my projects. You guys, I hope you like this one. I think it's absolutely adorable. Let me know what you think. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.